Welcome to Things You Don't Know. Today's episode was actually suggested by Chandler Foster, who has joined the team with Dr. Deneen and me. This episode combines some humor with interesting facts. So grab a bag of your favorite flavor of crunchy goodness as we peel back the curtain on potato chips. Set the pace for us, Chandler.
Well, first of all, Dr. Weaver, I'd like to say thank you and Dr. Deneen both for having me on here. I'm really looking forward to working with you guys. So I figured that we would start off at the beginning. In 1853, potato chips were invented when railroad shipping magnate Cornelius Vanderbilt was eating at a restaurant and ordered fried potatoes, sending them back, claiming that the slices were too thick. Crumb, insulted, decided to cut the slices paper thin and fry them to a crisp. You could have argued that pride, not necessity, was the mother of this invention. An interesting note is that Crumb was a head chef in an era when African Americans did not usually have the head position in any business.
And in that 160 years, potato chips have since become one of the most popular snack foods. To Crumb's surprise, Commodore Vanderbilt actually loved the chips and brought his friends back for more of the delicious treat. Soon after Crumb's invention, potato chips started gaining popularity in local eateries and later as a novelty snack at fairs and street vendors. They were first sold on a large scale at the St. Louis World's Fair in 1893. This fair also introduced ice cream cones. Their delicious taste and unique crunch caught people's attention. As demand grew, entrepreneurs saw an opportunity. The first potato chip factory was credited to William Tappenden in 1895. He started by making potato chips in his kitchen in Cleveland, Ohio, and delivering them to local grocery stores. As demand grew, he expanded his operation, leading to the establishment of the very first potato chip factory.
Who would have thought that the ubiquitous potato chip would become an international favorite? Let's turn our attention to how potato chips are made. Chips must be made fresh. They must have fresh potatoes that are no more than 24 hours old. Otherwise, the chips will have black spots in them. Every great chip begins with the ideal potato. There are hundreds of potato farms around the country, with farmers picking only the best potatoes, ensuring that our chips are always fresh and crispy. When these potatoes arrive at the factory, they're not just thrown into production. No, 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 no. They go through a series of quality checks. Potatoes are randomly selected and tested for size, shape, and quality. The factory may even track some potatoes by punching holes in them in order to monitor them through the cooking process. If a certain amount of potatoes does not meet the factory standards, the entire truckload could possibly be rejected. Hey, did you know that the Lay's potato chip factory uses approximately 2 billion pounds of potato chips a year? Did you know that, Chandler?
I did not. That's surreal almost. But once they get past the inspection process, so to speak, then it's time for a bath. The potatoes now head to a giant washing machine to remove dirt, stones, or any other remains that are left on the farm. The potatoes get a thorough scrub before going down to the peeling machines. After the potatoes are spick and span, they are sent through an automatic peeling machine, removing the skins in just a matter of seconds. This machine can peel thousands of potatoes an hour, which keeps the production moving rather quickly. After the skins are removed, they do not go to waste. Factories repurpose them for animal feed and even use them to create biodegradable products. So not only are we eating delicious chips, but we get to help reduce waste and support sustainability as well. Isn't that wonderful, Dr. Weaver and Dr. Deneen?
Sure
Absolutely.
is.
Absolutely. Now, after the potatoes are cleaned and peeled, it's time for some slicing and some dicing. The potatoes are sent through razor sharp slicers and transformed into the iconic paper thin slices that we all know and love. These blades are so precise that they can slice hundreds of potatoes in just a few minutes. Some chips get the classic flat slice, while others are cooked with ripple blades to produce ridged chips that are ideal for dips. In other countries, factories make potato chips with special designs, such as waffle cut or even crinkle cut, giving fans even more ways to enjoy their favorite snack.
But we're not done yet. Once the potatoes are thinly sliced, it's time for some good old sizzle. The potato slices are dropped into huge fryers, ranging anywhere in temperature from 350 to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. In just minutes, the slices transform into the golden, crispy snack that we have all come to adore. They are fried in a special blend of oils in order to ensure that they all have that light, crispy texture without being too greasy. This blend includes corn, sunflower, and canola oils. Well, the frying happens very quickly. The chips are constantly stirred to make sure that each slice is being fried evenly. After the short but thorough frying process, it's time to season the chips. The thin and crispy chips are sent to the seasoning station where they get a perfectly measured coating of flavors, whether it be sour cream and onion, salt and vinegar, or something spicy like flaming hot. Each bag is seasoned to perfection. There are approximately, hold on to your hats, friends, 200 flavors of potato chips worldwide. In the US,
Whoa!
that's amazing. I couldn't believe it. In the US, we have flavors like barbecue, cheddar sour cream, salt and vinegar. There's a pickle flavor that I absolutely love. However, did you know they have some really wild flavors in other countries? There are cappuccino flavored potato chips in China, ketchup flavored chips in Canada, seafood flavored chips in Thailand, and in South Africa, they're often eaten as a side dish, served together with lamb or beef.
Well, I must say, a trip to Thailand for some seafood chips might be ideal for me.
Sounds good to me, too.
Well, let's go. Once the chips are seasoned, they are ready to be packaged. Conveyor belts weigh out the perfect amount of chips and then drop them into bags. Before the bags are sealed, though, there's a little twist. The bags are filled with nitrogen. You might think it's just air, but the nitrogen helps maintain the freshness of the chips and prevents them from breaking during shipping. The air in the chip bag is not just to fill space, it actually plays an important role in protecting the chips and securing the flavor. Once the bags are filled and sealed, they are boxed up and shipped to stores all over the world. In all, it takes approximately 15 minutes to go from just raw, plain old potatoes to good old potato chips that we all know and love. Every step in the potato chip manufacturing process is carefully managed, from selecting the very best potatoes to the frying to the seasoning to the packaging. That's why every bag of chips is packed with that flavor, crunch, and just the right amount of seasoning.
Well, let's not chip away at the facts too fast. Although George Crumb, the head chef that we already mentioned, often gets credit for inventing the pita chip, historians who've joyfully peeled back the crispy layers of this tale are quick to say, not so fast, Crumb Bum. Turns out Crumb wasn't the first person to slice a spud and dunk it in hot oil. As early as 1817, an English doctor named William Kitchener, clearly a physician who believed in comfort food over kale, published a recipe in the Cook's Oracle for potatoes fried in slices or shavings. Fast forward to 1849, and we meet Eliza, another cook in Saratoga Springs, whose fry game was so strong the New York Herald took a break from covering cholera and horse racing to praise her potato frying reputation. Still, scholars agree that Crumb made chips cool before they were crunchy. Saratoga is where the chip truly came into its own. You can still buy Saratoga chips, which are basically the hipster ancestors of today's barbecue flavored crunch bombs.
Oh. For a long while, though, chips were the bougie snack of restaurant diners, too fancy for the common pantry. Then, in 1895, in Ohio, an entrepreneur by the name of William Taffin had a fried epiphany. Using his kitchen and later his barn turnship factory, he started churning hot chips and delivering them to stores. Barrels via horse-drawn chip mobile. That's right. Before DoorDash, there was Gallop Grub. Then came the real revolution, and not the French kind. In 1926, California businesswoman Laura Scudder upped the chip game with wax paper bags and promised freshness and boasted of being the noisiest chips in the world. Because if you run into clog your arteries, why not also rupture some eardrums? A year later, Leonard Japp, a Chicago chef, a former prize fighter, began producing chips, allegedly at the request of Al Capone himself. Yep, that's right, the gangster. Apparently, Capone visited Saratoga, fell head over fedora for the chip, and thought it would be the perfect side hustle for his speakeasies. Nothing compares with bathtub steam quite like a salty crunch.
Jap later modernized the snack by ditching lard in favor of oil, possibly because he finally read a pamphlet on cholesterol. By 1961, Lay's became the first national chip brand and hired none other than Bert Lahr, yes, the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz, to seductively taunt America with the slogan, "Bet you can't eat just one." Spoiler, friends, we couldn't, and we still can't.
I actually remember those commercials, and it was hilarious.
I imagine it would be. Today,
Yeah, I'm sure they would be.
Americans crunch through roughly 1.85 billion with a B pounds of potato chips each year. That's 6.6 pounds per person. Basically, something the size of a toddler made of starch for every adult. The chip market alone, just chips, not pretzels or cheese puffs or those air puffed kale lies, although they actually are pretty tasty, is worth $10.5 billion. Yes, billion with a B and possibly with a burp.
Sure, people complain that chips are linked to obesity and high blood pressure, but the snack world clapped back with healthier options. Now you can feel slightly less guilty for eating sweet potato chips with sea salt, all red lentil crisps, while whispering vegetable, while still being mostly fried joy. Potato chips probably inspired fried corn chips, such as Fritos, Doritos, and Funyuns as well, which I love. I could eat a whole bag at one time. As other snack goodies.
Yeah, people sometimes complain about the mess that can be left on your fingers when eating chips. But I gotta say, don't tell anybody this. But I've gotta say that licking the fingers are better having a special person lick them for you is a whole lot of fun. Potato chips are widely enjoyed as a snack, but they come with several health drawbacks, especially when consumed frequently or in large quantities. Here's a breakdown of their health impact. I guess we got to include that. And it's a downside, but hey, okay. Potato chips are widely enjoyed, but there are those health drawbacks.
Sure, they're very high in calories and fat. A single ounce, about 15 chips, contains roughly 150 calories and 10 grams of fat. Many chips are fried in oils, which are high in saturated fats, or even trans fat, which can raise LDL, otherwise known as bad cholesterol. One serving often contains 150 to 200 milligrams of sodium, and as Mr. Law reminded us, people often eat more than one serving. High sodium intake is linked to strokes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. The chips don't have the best nutritional value. They're low in essential nutrients like protein, fiber, and vitamins, minerals as well. They're essentially empty calories, offering little to no nutritional benefit. Frying potatoes at high temperatures produces acrylamide, a chemical linked to cancer in animal studies, and the combination of crunch, fat, and salt makes chips hyperpalatable, which often leads to overeating. An occasional indulgence is generally fine for most healthy individuals. Frequent consumption can contribute to poor heart health, weight gain, and an increased risk of chronic diseases.
Another interesting issue surrounding potato chips is the controversy over Pringles as a quote real potato chip that centers on both legal classification and marketing perceptions, particularly in the United States and the United Kingdom. The debate was rooted in questions of how much actual potato is in a Pringle and what legally counts as a potato chip.
Pringles are made from a dough-like paste composed of dried potato flakes, corn flour, wheat starch, vegetable oils, rice flour, and seasonings. This paste is pressed into molds, not sliced from whole potatoes like traditional chips, which are called crisps in the UK. Now, in the United States, the controversy was mostly about labeling and advertising. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, requires that anything labeled a potato chip must be made primarily from sliced potatoes. Because Pringles are reconstituted from a mix of potato-based and non-potato-based ingredients, Procter and Gamble, then the owner, initially called them potato crisps. Their competitor, including Frito-Lay, challenged this, arguing that the use of the word potato misled consumers. In 1975, the FDA ruled that Pringles could not be marketed as potato chips without explicitly stating they were made from dried potatoes. So Pringles began labeling themselves as potato crisps in the United States.
In the United Kingdom, the controversy took a different turn, mainly about taxes. In the UK, most food is tax exempt, but potato crisps are subject to a value added tax, or VAT. In 2008, Procter and Gamble argued that Pringles should not be taxed as crisps because they were only 42% potato. Their shape, uniform and stackable, and composition were different from traditional crisps. They argued it was more like a savory snack than a crisp. The UK High Court disagreed, saying there is more than enough potato content in Pringles for them to be classified as potato chips. Pringles became subject to the value added tax. just like any other crisp. You know, this controversy touched on definitions and regulatory classification of food, tax law and product labeling, consumer expectations about authenticity and natural ingredients. It also highlights how the same product could be marketed differently depending on a country's laws and how big companies sometimes walk the line between categories to avoid regulation or tax.
That's very true. I've always been amazed at how popular different kinds of chips are around the world. In South Africa, there's a custom called a braai. It's basically a fancy barbecue. Crisps, or chips as they are more commonly called in South Africa, play a supporting but a very beloved role, while the meat, beef, chicken, pork, and antelope is the star of the show. The crisps are familiar and a comforting part of the social and snacking ecosystem that surrounds what Africans call the braai experience. Before the fire is ready, and while the Boer Wars, that's white sausage, chops, and sautés, that's Cajun style chicken, are being prepared, guests often snack on Simba chips, that's South Africa's most popular and most iconic brand. Knick that's puffed corn maize snack, filings, which are bits of antelope skin, very similar to beef jerky, and tortilla chips with chocolate dip or guacamole. Now, I've had the chocolate dip, it's delicious. Crisps help fill the gap between the arrival and the main meal, especially when the fire is taking its time, the drinks are flowing, and people need something salty. They sit next to the cooler box, the commentary on last week's rugby game, and the uncle with the too loud laugh. Passing around bag of salt and vinegar Simba or Mrs. H.S. bowls, flavored chips, usually chutney, is part of the informal generosity and shared eating that defines a braai. They go hand in hand with everything. Though they're not a formal side dish, crisps sometimes appear on the plate next to Boer War rolls or steak sandwiches, especially at family, casual, spur of the moment braais or among kids and younger guests. They're never the main event, but without them, the party would feel a lot thinner, like forgetting the stories or even worse, forgetting the ice.
Thanks for joining us today as we crunch through the tasty look at potato chips.
Friends, I really enjoyed this. Not everything has to be some serious political or military event. I like our balance of doing serious things and just things for fun like this. Come back soon. Leave us a like and a comment. Many wonderful things coming up.
Yeah, and you know what? What I would really like to hear from you, our listeners, is what kind of dips do you like to have with your potato chips? I kind of like some of the more strange ones, but I don't want to give that away too much. But if you have some special dip, let us know. It would be fun to know, just for the heck of it. Anyhow,
Fun fact,
yeah, it kind of is. I mean, do you have a favorite dip, Chandler?
I actually do. French onion.
Yeah, I like French onion, but I don't like the store-bought stuff.
Oh, I don't either. I have to make my stuff home done. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Sean?
Oh, I like that. I like hummus. I like different types of salsa. I know it's even worse for you than a chip, but I like those uh, spreadable cheese sauce things. God help me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
what I like to do oftentimes is melted cheese with salsa mixed in.
oh, that's very good.
Or
I'll often get that at the
Oh
movies
yeah.
instead of
yeah,
popcorn. Folks, if you want an
Oh yeah, the
interesting
nachos and cheese. Yeah.
other podcast, check out our popcorn podcast.
indeed. All right. Well, listen, we're gonna go ahead and close this down and let you get back to your bag of crisps, or if you're British, or chips if you're American, and have a great day. Come back soon, okay? Bye for now.
So long, everybody.
See you next time.